Welcome to a real-life action story, where justice doesn't come from a courtroom, but starts right on the front porch. When Jason Rourke, a former Special Forces operative, was forcibly removed from his own ranch by fake HOA police, he taught them a lesson they'll never forget. Have you ever witnessed abuse of power, or do you have your own take on how Jason fought back? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share this story, because sometimes justice needs to spread from the most real moments. 6 a.m. The sky hadn't even begun to brighten. I was tying hay to the horse trough when I heard a strange sound, the faint hiss of tires on gravel. 3 black SUVs pulled up in a row right outside the ranch gate. No sirens, no police logos. But the footsteps that followed when the doors opened told me one thing clearly. They weren't here to ask for directions. I set the rope coil down, my right hand clenched instinctively. It had been a long time since I felt this rush of adrenaline, since Afghanistan 2009. The iron gate swung open as a man stepped forward, holding a yellow folder stamped on the front. Notice of Enforcement, HOA, Action. He was tall, neatly trimmed beard, wearing a black uniform with no insignia, just one printed line. HOA, Tactical Division. I stepped up to the fence. This ranch is private property, registered since 1986. Who the hell are you? He didn't answer. Instead, a blonde woman stepped out from behind him, eyes sharp as blades, a crooked smile like it had been carved with scissors. I recognized her immediately, Karen Whitmore, the self-proclaimed president of the HOA, representing an organization no one ever voted for, no one ever acknowledged. We've sent 3 notices. You refuse to comply. This is your final warning. This ranch is now part of the Evergreen Meadows Community Development Plan. Under the new ordinance, you are unlawfully occupying the property. I looked around. The log house my father built by hand. The stables I repaired after the storm. The weathered Rourke Ranch sign hanging over the gate. I turned back to Karen. I'm a soldier, and I didn't survive 2 combat tours just to come home and have a bunch of fake lawmen steal my land. Karen curled her lips. I don't care who you used to be. If you don't leave in 10 minutes, the enforcement team will proceed. The man stepped forward, handed me the folder. I didn't read it. I'd seen too many printed lies dressed up as legal. I took a step back, locking eyes with him. What's your name? Troy Maddox. Military service? I used to work for Black Sparrow. I paused. Black Sparrow was a private military contractor banned after 3 federal scandals. So you're not cops, just a bunch of contractors in HOA uniforms. Troy's jaw clenched. If you don't stand down, I'll be forced to subdue you. I gave a cold smile. Good. I was just waiting to see who backs down first. I pressed the button in my shirt pocket. The live stream camera activated, connecting to the YouTube channel I used to teach survival skills. The stable's security cam angled down, capturing the entire HOA police squad surrounding a veteran. I slowly pulled a card from my pocket. Veteran ID, U.S. Army, retired. Then I dropped the folder on the ground and stepped on it. Last warning, Karen. This is my land. If you take one more step, you'll learn exactly what federal trespassing, impersonating law enforcement, and unlawful entry really mean. Karen said nothing, but I saw her eyes darting, uncertain now. Troy didn't hesitate. He signaled to 2 men behind him. They pulled out stun guns. Big mistake. I had already set traps. 2 infrared sensors above the porch triggered small homemade flashbangs, bright enough to blind for 5 seconds. I charged at Troy, pivoted, slammed him into the fence post, and cuffed his wrists in 2 swift moves. The taser hit the ground. One of the other men slipped on the oil I'd spread on the front steps. Faceplant. The last guy froze in place. I said just one thing. Call the real police, right now. I held Troy on the ground, eyes still locked on Karen, who was now pale, her hands trembling ever so slightly. It all started 2 months ago, on a quiet Tuesday afternoon like any other. I was rebuilding the northern fence after the April storm when a shiny white Lexus rolled up the red dirt driveway, strutting in like the ranch was someone's private resort. A woman stepped out, dressed in a crisp white suit, high heels sinking into the mud, but she didn't seem to care. She opened a leather briefcase and held out a stack of pre-printed papers like she was delivering a corporate acquisition deal. Hello, I'm Karen Whitmore, acting president of the Evergreen Meadows HOA. I'm here to inform you that this property now falls under the community zoning adjustments. You'll be required to pay a membership fee, $1,200 per quarter, and comply with the aesthetic and operational standards issued by the new board. I wiped the sweat from my brow, drove my shovel into the ground, and looked her straight in the eye. I've never signed any document joining an HOA, and this land has been legally owned by my family for over 30 years, long before Evergreen was ever zoned. Karen didn't blink. That doesn't matter. We held a vote to establish the HOA, and under the law, majority rules. I held back a laugh. On paper, it sounded legal, but I've seen her kind before. People who use fancy clothes and legal jargon to wrap up the rot underneath. I flat out refused. No arguments, no debate. Just a clear no. But I knew someone like Karen doesn't stop just because she hears the word no. The following week, I received an anonymous letter in my wooden mailbox. HOA violation notice. For storing hay too close to the road, for flying the American flag too high, for nighttime horse noises causing sound pollution. I tore up each one and threw them in the fire. But by the third week, things started getting personal. One night, I heard footsteps around the livestock barn. When I turned on the floodlights, I saw the silhouette of a man running across the field, leaving behind a photocopied land map, red marker scribbles circling my ranch like it already belonged to the HOA. I dug through property records at the county clerk's office. In 34 years, there had never been any clause linking my land to any HOA. But a revised document had appeared just 3 months ago, signed with a forged version of my name, filed from a non-existent law firm, Whitemore Legal Associates. That's when I started documenting everything. Unfamiliar license plates parked near the ranch at night, mail with no return address, camera wires mysteriously cut exactly 1 week after installation. I'd investigated plenty of infiltration cases in the military, and what I smelled here was a coordinated land grab operation. I went online and searched the name Karen Whitmore. No public HOA election record, no resident meetings on file. But there was an old legal file from the next county over. Karen had once been sued for impersonating a civic organization official to seize control of a retirement housing community in 2016. The case had been quietly settled. I knew exactly what I was up against. A fake HOA network exploiting legal loopholes to steal land. I didn't go to the police. I needed time. I needed evidence. And I needed them to show their real faces. So I upgraded the security system, installed infrared cameras, wired in homemade flashbangs, and began doing something I'd mastered in the military, profiling targets, building strategy, and waiting for the right moment to strike back. Karen didn't return for a few days. I thought she had given up. I was wrong. The following week, a sign was erected right at the edge of the dirt road leading into my ranch, printed in bold letters. You are now entering Evergreen Meadows, HOA jurisdiction. Private access only. Beneath it was an HOA logo I had never seen before, looking like it was designed by a high school student, sloppy and lacking any legal weight. But it worked on people who didn't know the law, and that's exactly how they operated. I tore the sign down and burned it behind the stables. 2 days later, I received a warning letter from the Community Construction Inspection Office, an agency that doesn't exist within the county's government structure. The letter demanded that I dismantle unauthorized structures, including the stables, water tower, and even the shed that stored my lawnmower. The letter was signed, Troy Maddox, Head of Enforcement, Evergreen HOA. It was the first time I saw that name. I dug deeper. Troy was a former contractor for Black Sparrow, a private security firm entangled in 3 federal lawsuits for illegal enforcement under the guise of civilian security. One of those cases involved forcibly evicting elderly residents using forged orders in New Mexico. At this point, I had no doubt. Karen had hired an armed enforcement team to carry out her land-grabbing scheme. I began to fight back. I sent an official letter to the county sheriff's office requesting legal verification of the Evergreen HOA. The response was crystal clear. There is no legally registered or recognized HOA under that name in this area. I printed that letter and posted it right by my front door, but it didn't stop them. It only made them bolder. One Friday night, while reviewing camera footage, I spotted a red blinking light by the western fence line. I zoomed in on the monitor. Someone was attaching a GPS tracking device to the bed of my pickup truck. I bolted outside, but he was already gone. What remained was a deep boot print in the mud, military tactical boots, the kind only worn by those with specialized training. I started sleeping in a ready position. A shotgun hidden behind the door. Homemade flashbangs rigged at 3 key positions. The entire camera system wired to an external hard drive and set to live stream online if breached. By Monday, an official letter arrived in the mail. Eviction notice. I was ordered to vacate the property within 72 hours to preserve peace and community order. Below the signature line, in addition to Karen Whitmore, was the name Troy Maddox, this time with the title Director of Community Security Operations. They weren't hiding anymore. That night, I drove to the home of an old friend, Deputy Carla Briggs, the county's deputy sheriff. We had served together in Iraq. When I handed her a copy of the eviction notice, she simply looked at me and shook her head. No case number, no county seal, no legal witness. Jason, this is a forgery. I knew that, but I needed official confirmation so I could take it public, so people would see the true face of this so-called HOA. Carla promised to monitor the situation closely, but she also warned me, if they show up, don't fire first, record everything. We'll step in the moment it turns violent. 3 days later, exactly at 6 a.m., they came. 3 black SUVs, 4 armed men. A woman standing behind them, eyes locked on the ranch gate. Karen. They thought I was just a lone farmer. They didn't know I once commanded a rapid response team, planned urban hostage rescues, and survived 3 ambushes and 2 IED attacks. And they were about to learn their first lesson in a hard truth. Never corner a soldier on his own land. Karen stood there like she was the one in charge of the operation. Her white suit contrasted bizarrely with the red western soil, and so did her attitude, equally blatant. 2 men in black uniforms, stun guns on their hips, approached the fence, while Troy Maddox walked between them, a shoulder-mounted radio crackling with call signs I'd heard hundreds of times on the battlefield. They were mimicking a real chain of command. I didn't say a word. I stood still in the middle of the front yard, the gate wide open as if inviting them in. The security cameras were already rolling, live streaming to my personal channel, the same one I used to teach how to pitch tents, purify water, and survive emergency situations. Today's lesson would be different. How to defend your land from a group impersonating government authority. Troy stepped forward and read out a so-called emergency eviction order. I didn't need to look to know it was fake. I asked just one question. Has this document been submitted to the county sheriff's office? Troy didn't respond. He adjusted his gloves slightly, eyes sharp as a blade. I'm not here to negotiate. Remove your belongings within 15 minutes, or we'll proceed with soft enforcement measures. Karen cut in. Don't let a small issue turn into a big problem, Jason. All you have to do is sign the HOA membership form. Everything will be smooth. I gave a slight nod. Then listen carefully. I walked to the old mailbox by the gate and opened the lid. Inside was an envelope containing my ID, veteran ID, U.S. Army, Special Operations, Honorable Discharge. I held it high for all of them to see, facing the live stream camera. I'm Jason Rourke, former U.S. Army Special Operations. This land is legally registered under my family's name since 1986. Anyone stepping onto it without a valid court order is committing unlawful trespassing. Karen turned pale, but Troy still didn't get it. He signaled to the other 2 men to move in, pointing straight at me. Subdue the target. Begin forced eviction protocol. A fatal mistake. I hit the trigger inside my shirt pocket. 2 devices mounted under the porch roof lit up simultaneously, flashing bright white. Temporary flashbangs designed to blind for several seconds. In that moment, I pivoted, swept one guy's legs out, grabbed the stun gun from his hand, and threw it aside. The second man backed up, but tripped over a grass wire I'd laid, face planting into the wooden fence. Troy pulled out a baton, but I was ready. 1 arm block, pivot, joint lock. He groaned, knee hitting the ground. I pinned him under my knee, tightening my grip. This isn't a community operation. This is an organized assault. Right then, a siren wailed in the distance. A county patrol car roared down the dirt path. Deputy Carla Briggs stepped out, hand resting on her belt. "Drop all weapons. Everything you're doing is being recorded and could result in criminal charges." Karen tried to run. I pointed at the camera. "You're live. Over 12,000 people are watching, including the Federal Investigative Office." Carla advanced, cuffing Troy and his two accomplices. She glanced over at me. "Jason, you just saved me 3 months of investigation, and maybe a whole federal indictment." I said nothing. Karen stood frozen. No more followers, no more authority. She looked at me, not with menace, but with fear, genuine fear. I quietly said, "I didn't fight to come home and be a victim on the land I shed sweat to build, and I sure as hell didn't fight to be evicted by someone like you." After the intense standoff in my front yard, I sat on the wooden steps, watching the early morning sunlight filter through the dust that hadn't yet settled. Troy Maddox, handcuffed, slumped in the back of the patrol car. His two henchmen were silent, eyes downcast. And Karen didn't say a word. Deputy Carla Briggs filed the report on site, collecting all the forged eviction orders, fake maps, unregistered weapons, and surveillance equipment the group had brought. All of it was classified as evidence of organized trespassing. Carla spoke, her voice calm and cold. "Jason, what you recorded, videos, audio, documents, it's enough to bring this to the federal level, and I'll personally submit the case to the Department of Justice." I nodded, saying nothing. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt tired. Tired of having to fight on my own land. Tired that people like Karen could so easily wear the mask of community to hide their greed. 3 days later, Karen was officially summoned. A team of federal investigators raided the fake HOA office, located in a commercial strip 12 miles away, what turned out to be a shell company called Greenpath Solutions LLC, used to establish fake HOA models across the western region. By tracing the money trail, authorities uncovered hundreds of thousands of dollars funneled through ghost accounts under the name of community maintenance fees from victims just like me. An elderly man, nearly 80, had been threatened with eviction. A single mother had paid nearly $5,000 just to keep her property safe. Once the news broke in the media, everything exploded. Local TV stations came to interview. The video I shot that morning went viral, gaining over 2 million views in just a week. But I declined every invitation to appear on air. I didn't want fame. All I wanted was peace for my land, safety for my family. Karen was indicted on 8 counts, including forging legal documents, armed trespassing, threatening citizens, and misusing organizational authority. Troy Maddox faced charges of possessing illegal weapons, impersonating law enforcement, and participating in a civil conspiracy with criminal intent. Both were held in custody, awaiting trial. At a community meeting organized by the county government to clarify the situation, I was invited to speak. I stood up slowly, holding my worn veteran ID card. I'm not a hero. I'm just a man trying to live in peace on the land my father left me. But when power is abused, when people wrap themselves in the law to oppress others, then every one of us has to rise, not with guns, not with violence, but with truth, with evidence, and with uncompromising courage. The entire hall rose in applause, but I didn't smile. A few weeks later, I repainted the wooden gate at the front of my ranch. Old, weathered, but solid. I nailed a small sign to it, not to threaten, not to intimidate, just as a reminder. This land isn't part of any HOA, it's part of my story, and no one rewrites that. The story of Jason Rourke is more than just a battle against a fake HOA. It's a wake-up call to all of us about the value of property rights, civic responsibility, and the courage to stand firm in the face of injustice. It poses a seemingly simple, yet deeply profound question. What happens when you are stripped of the right to live in peace on your own land? One of the most powerful messages in this story is that knowledge and preparation are the sharpest weapons against the abuse of power. Jason didn't retaliate with reckless violence. He gathered evidence, verified the law, and used legal tools to defend what was his. This is a reminder that every citizen, whether a lawyer, a soldier, or an ordinary person, can stand up and fight back, armed with information, reason, and unyielding resolve. Secondly, the story exposes the danger of organizations that hide behind false legitimacy. When people like Karen exploit the name of community for personal gain, the true threat isn't just the bogus fees or fake eviction notices. The real danger lies in the apathy of bystanders, in good people staying silent out of fear or inconvenience. Jason didn't stay silent, and his actions didn't just save his ranch, they woke an entire community. Another profound lesson is the need for vigilance in an age of information and paperwork. The line between what is legal and what is forged can be incredibly thin, unless we check carefully, ask questions, and refuse to accept authority at face value. By digging into records and questioning the origins of the HOA, Jason showed us that not everyone who claims authority actually has it. Finally, the story underscores a timeless truth. Justice may be slow, but if you don't give up, it will come. Karen thought money and forgery could cover her tracks, but in the end, it was evidence, truth, and the spirit of a soldier that brought her to light. In today's complex world, where personal rights can be quietly eroded by shadowy organizations, the greatest lesson is this: never underestimate the power of a single, determined citizen who stands for what's right. Because sometimes, all it takes is one person doing the right thing to awaken an entire community. If this story made you reflect on property rights, personal freedom, and the courage to defend what's yours, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video to help spread the message far and wide. Do you relate to Jason, outraged by what the fake HOA tried to pull? Or do you have a different take on how he fought back? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, whether positive or critical, because your voice is an important part of the conversation about justice and community. Thanks for watching until the end.